Hello, my name is Jaehoon, and today I will tell you guys about the resource market from microeconomics. I hope you guys get good grades or gain new knowledge from my video. So, I'll start. Businesses sell products in the product market, but they also hire resources in the resource market. So, now the demand is from firms and the supply is from households. The first concept is derived demand. The derived demand is the demand for resources determined or derived by the products they help produce. For example, if the demand for pizzas goes up, then the demand for pizza deliveries goes up too. That is the idea of derived demand. You should also be able to recognize shifts in the minimum wage in the curve, which has the x-axis of the number of workers and the y-axis of wage. The minimum wage is a binding floor. So the price goes up and the wage goes up too. As a result, the quantity supplied increases and the quantity demanded decreases, making a surplus that leads to unemployment. The next concept is about MRP and MRC. So first, MRP stands for Marginal Revenue Product. Marginal revenue product is the additional revenue generated by an additional work, which is the resource. The opposing concept, MRC, stands for marginal resource cost. Marginal resource cost is the additional cost of an additional resource. The way to maximize profit for the firm is to produce where MRP equals MRC. Now we will learn about the shifters and demand for resources. The first one is the price of the final product. If the price of a product goes up, firms will want to supply more of those products. So the demand for the resources to produce the product will go up. The second is productivity. When resources can produce more than they did before, the demand for the resource will go up. The third is the number of buyers. New firms entering the industry simply demand more resources, so the demand curve for these resources shifts to the right, which means an increase. So fourth is substitute resources. I will give you an example. When labor and machines are both used to produce iron, if the price of labor goes up, then the demand for machines, which is a substitute for labor, will go up. And lastly, it is the quantity of other resources. More capital tends to increase the demand for resources. For example, more lands will increase the demand for tractors, or more cafes will increase the demand for servers and baristas. Also, thinking easily, a resource market graph seems like a flipped product market. Thank you.
Today I'm going to teach you about the second part of chapter 10 in AP Microeconomics. So here's the book. So today we're going to learn about the economic rent, Monosphere, and the lease cost rule and the summary of chapter 10. So to begin with, we're going to learn about economic rent. So as written in the book, economic rent occurs when payments for one of the factors of production, for example, land, labor, capital, or entrepreneurship exceeds the minimum amount needed to continue within a market transaction. So let's just highlight the part over here. So to take an example, for example, imagine you own a house and you're willing to rent it out for about $1,000 a month. So you own the house, you don't sell the rent. However, while your property is up for the rent, there's a huge increase in demand for rentals due to a sudden shortage in the market. So for the demand of rental goes up suddenly for some kind of reasons, and then because due to the demand going up, the price also goes up. So basically, so now you can rent for $1,500, which means that you have an extra surplus of $500. So the extra rental income is considered economic rent. And the second example is also, let's say, a factory worker who is willing to work for $20 an hour, and her union negotiates a wage contract for 25 hourly wage. So this means that because the union negotiated with the company for a higher minimum wage of $5, this extra $5 here can actually be the economic rent. So due to market transactions, increase of demand, or some other transactions, or some other effects, when the price or the economic benefit goes up by suddenly, that's economic rent. The second term we're going to go is monosphere. So similar to the way monopoly uses market power to adversely affect product markets, a monopsony has a similar effect on factor markets. So a monopsony is a single buyer of labor, a single buyer. For example, a small town coal mine. So recall how a monopoly has two downsloping curves with marginal revenue less than demand, as it must lower prices for all to increase sales, which decrease the marginal revenue. So monopsony has not two downward, but as you can see here, two upward sloping curves, which is supply and MFC. So the MFC curve increases at a faster rate than the supply curve, as the monopsony cannot wage discriminate because remember, there is only a single buyer. As it hires additional workers, it must pay higher wages to them as well as to every other worker previously hired, because obviously, you're only hiring, you're a single buyer in the labor market. And let's say if you're getting a fixed wage, but someone else, a newly hired guy gets more than you wouldn't want to go into the group, right? Because you're getting this price discriminated. So because it cannot happen, monopsony needs to pay higher wages to them because to compare it as well as every other worker previously hired. So if they want to pay them a higher wage, they have to pay every other workers in the company a higher wage. So this results in the MFC curve being higher than the supply, as you can see in the graph. So in this figure, the quantity of labor hired in the monopsony labor market would be at QM over here, where MFC equals MRP. But note that the wage paid, this WM, they pay a wage based on supply curve at QM over here. So monopsony hires fewer workers and pays less than would occur in a competitive market, which means that they have some benefits over the competitive market. So the last term we're going to learn is about the least cost rule. So you all know by now that firms maximize profits by their increase in revenue or decrease in costs, or both. So similar to when we learned about utility maximization by consumers in chapter 5, previously, producers attempt to find the cost minimization combination from two different inputs, labor and capital, using production with least cost rule. So the least cost rule of input states that multiple inputs states that to minimize costs, a firm will adjust the ratio of inputs until the marginal product of labor divided by the price is equal to the marginal product of the capital divided by the price. So the least cost rule formula is written over here, and you must remember this as it comes out in the AP contest. So as firms use more and more of one resource, let's say, for example, labor, the productivity of the input eventually declines due to diminishing marginal returns, which you learned previously. This is a very basic term. So in this case, the firm will hire more labor and decrease its use of capital. So eventually the marginal profit of labor will decline, the marginal profit of capital will increase, and the ratios of marginal product per dollar will be equal. So the same holds true with the diminishing returns of capital usage. To solve it, the least cost rule problem, so you have to look at this table. So if a firm has only $35 and it will cost $10 and a factor will cost 5, what is the optimal use of resources? Just like with the consumer's utility maximization, you have to make a chart with we have to make a chart. So start by choosing the higher number and continue until all the money has been spent. So with this graph, it will be good if you make a chart and then you actually try to solve the problem. So that is all for chapter 10, and I hope you have a good time learning chapter 10 on the AP Econ. Thank you.